Okay, so now we have a very fantastic panel, and I would like to call on stage our moderator first, Thomas Hahn, again president of BDVA, and I invite already all the 4 speakers. We have really 4 distinguished speakers. So Alberto Palomo, Chief Data Officer of the Spanish government. We have also Laure Le Bars from SAP. We have Viivi from My Data and also 1001 Lakes, and Silvina Arce from the club Chief Data Officer Spain and Latin America. So enjoy the panel that will really touch on the aspects of the sustainable impact and future realities.
So, perfect. Now we have two. Okay, then we have at least 3 mics on the panel. So many thanks. And first of all, apologies that the technology is a little bit tricky, but it keeps us busy and alive to look what's happening, and I have also in case a backup system with me. Second, apologies, I'm not a professional moderator, so to the panelists. When something is wrong from my side, don't complain too much. My best. But nevertheless, I want to have this panel a little bit about the 5 themes which we have elaborated in the big. Then I make it in. No, now it's coming back. Keeps us a little bit busy. But nevertheless, you know, we have here around the 5 themes which you see now on the screen. Empowering a European industry and society for, let's say, human-centric digital future. I can phrase it also in a nutshell, let's say, technology with purpose. Yeah, expanding our data-driven ecosystem across sectors and with global value change. I think we have also a specific topic in the afternoon for one domain in manufacturing. Making data and AI and innovation fit for the emerging infrastructure and platforms. I think we have Laure. Also, I think you will for sure refer a little bit to the quantum and the stuff, what is possible. Yeah, I'm very confident. Sustainable data and enhancing efficiency. Yeah, will affect how this and integrating the innovation and ethics to make. Lost again the mic. Maybe I change. Conventional mic and over to you, Alberto, and make a little tour de table around you, a little bit, giving your own statements, introducing yourself before we are digging into the details of the different topics. And Alberto, please start, and I switch the system. Of all was the problem.
Not a problem. Good morning, everybody. Well, first of all, thank you to Thomas and to the BDVA and the overall ecosystem in Europe for inviting me. As Thomas said, I'm Alberto Palomo. I'm the Chief Data Officer for the Spanish government. I've taken a position a little bit over 2 years ago. This is sort of a novel position within the European member states, and sort of the role that we play from my data office is really try to boost a lot of these things that we, you know, that the BDVA and the aligned European ecosystem of data spaces and cloud and AI is pushing. So that's what I do.
Thank you. I'll take over from here. So lovely to see you all here. My name is Viivi, my surname is Finnish, don't even try pronouncing it. So I bring kind of 3 different perspectives to this conversation that I hope will be enriching. So as it says there, I'm a senior data strategist with a Finnish consultancy company called 1001 Lakes. And in this role, I'm a professional that encounters companies of all sizes, organizations from different sectors, also the public sector, who are seeking to create value from data, especially through data sharing and data collaborations. I'm also a researcher with the University of Helsinki. I'm a philosopher and I focus on ethics. So I spend my researchy time thinking about the role that data, and especially personal data, plays in our lives today, and what's the role that it should play in the future. And as it also says there, I do have a third role as well, which is the chair of the board for My Data Global. My Data Global is an international nonprofit for the promotion of a human-centric approach to personal data. And in this role, I interact with EU policymakers and politicians as digital regulation is being contemplated, drafted, debated, implemented, and enforced. So these are the kind of perspectives that I want to bring here. So the business value created from data, how that's generated in an ethically sustainable way, and within a framework that is fit for that purpose legally and in a regulatory manner. And for the opening, I'd like to share a very simple but to me quite profound thought about slowness. It's common in our circles and in events like this wonderful forum here in beautiful Valencia to say that technology moves fast. And it's equally common to hear that regulation moves slowly. And the case in point here is the arrival of ChatGPT in the middle of the negotiations and drafting process for the AI Act in EU. So Politico, for example, ran with a headline, ChatGPT broke the EU plan to regulate AI, right? So what would have happened if the law had been finalized the day before ChatGPT emerged on the stage? We don't know. But I think we'll have an idea once the next AI craze hits our phones, our laptops, our browsers, the day after the AI Act is finalized. But anyway, the point is that that's a fairly familiar story. Technology, fast, regulation, slow. But you know what's even slower? We are. People. Our cultures, our values, our needs as human beings. For belonging, for contact with other people, for safety and security for ourselves, this very deeply felt sense that we need for ourselves and those around us. And this is something, and these things, they change, if they change at all, they change even slower than the EU, you know? And this is a fact that sometimes gets lost in conversations about data and AI, technology, innovation, and novelty. Because at the end of the day, it is about us, people. It's about what we can do and how we can live. And we're slow to change. So the message I really want to get across is that we also need to recognize the fundamentals, what it is to be human. Will pretty much stay the same throughout a lifetime. And we also need to look past what's new about a new technology. And that way we can recognize what remains the same underneath. And this requires time and reflection, but it will help us ask the most important questions. Does this technology support our sense of belonging? Does this innovation contribute to our felt sense of security? Do they actually help us flourish as human beings? So that's, with that thought, I'll thank you for now, very much.
Hola.
Okay, thank you. Now up to you. And now with a conventional microphone.
So first of all, thank you, Thomas and Anna, for inviting me to the event. I'm very proud to be part of this panel. So I'm Silvina Arce. I'm been leading the Chief Data and Analytics Officer role since 2013, almost 10 years. We were very few at that time that we started with the responsibility of bringing value to the business with data. and transforming the way we do things with data. So it's for it that we realize it is not easy work. We decided 7 years ago to create, together with some colleagues, some other CDOs, this CDO club that is a community that brings like almost 400 people. They are all CDOs. They are the people that are leading data strategies in their organizations, mainly in Spain and Latin America, Spanish-speaking countries. So coming back to my experience, I started like 10 years ago. I was the CDO in Santander Bank for some years, and then I moved to Chile. And I was a CDO in Banco de Chile. My main, I think, the principal experience always were in financial services. And then almost 4 years ago, I decided to move to a big corporation in Latin America. Name is Falabella. Probably, I don't know, very few of you knows about Falabella, but it is one of the big players in the Latin America countries. So it's one of the biggest holdings in the region. So Falabella is different business, like retail, e-commerce. We have the franchise of IKEA in almost all the countries. We have a bank, we have an insurance company, a real estate business, so different businesses in 7 different countries in the region. So multi-country, multi-industry, a lot of silos, okay? So those businesses, they were bringing value because each of them, they have a head of data, so they were doing things with data. But a very it was silo way. So they don't share data between the different businesses, they don't share also obviously cross-country. So they decide at the corporate level to bring a chief data analytics officer, it was me, to create one of the biggest data ecosystems. I probably will say in the world, because we were visiting many different countries to see if we can copy what other data ecosystems are doing, but there are not so many. So we started almost from scratch to define how can we bring all this data from different industries, different countries, and how can we develop more intelligence data products to bring more value to the business. So this is the main responsibility from my side. So it was about creating enablers, creating new capabilities, but sustainability is not coming because you have a very big thing. Sustainability is coming because business are getting value from that. So the second part of the story is how can we promote adoption from everything we were creating there. So we launched an awareness plan with the business because one of the challenges we realized is business. Not all the business are at the same level of maturity, understanding how data can help in their objectives. So we help the different business to discover new ways of doing things, and how can we simplify the life of our customers, how can we help our sellers to grow their business. So we say capabilities, this data ecosystem, now this awareness and discovery of how can we bring value to different business. And also last part of the story, I really want to arise this because also sustainability is about, you need to be compliant. So when you talk about data sharing, multi-industry, multi-country, with personal data, with free competition laws, with a lot of stuff like, you need to be compliant with all this. You need to make a mechanism to accelerate and not stop the business of, for using the data. If you develop a big data ecosystem, but then you have a hard relation in place that no one can access to the data, then there is no value on this. No? So really, because of this topic of the event today, I want to talk about this specific experience. I think I can bring my point of view from the private sector, but I think we can also make a reflection of how can we help the public business to do something for getting value. No? So this is more or less about me.
So many thanks, Laura.
That's the difficulty to be the last one, because you can only repeat what the other says. So I'm Laure Le Bars. I'm Vice President of BDVA, so working for SAP, SAP being one of the founders of this community. And as Thomas briefly mentioned, I'm also acting in quantum computing for a number of years now. And so maybe on a personal note, I did my thesis back in the 80s on AI topics, so it's kind of running in circle. But no, what's important is this is not just technology for the sake of technology. This is really, we need to see how to use it, what is it good for. So there was a different example here. And this is what we really have to look at, and not just, not thinking we can make miracles, but really what are the use cases, what is it good for enterprise, for citizens, for humanity. Yeah, and that's, we mentioned it several times. I mean, big data and AI goes together. You cannot do AI if you don't have big data, and vice versa. This really converge. And this is something where BDVA as a community is looking at for quite a long time. I mean, we were here in Valencia in 2016, but back in 2017, this first EBDVF in Versailles, that this was, AI was one of the driven topic. And you mentioned quantum, so I have to mention it. So for those of you who didn't follow my session just before, too bad for you. No, but that's what is interesting in quantum computing. It's one of looking at from a software point of view, in the future, we could use this technology to do better optimization, to solve some of those AI and machine learning, etc. So we'll not replace everything, bear with me, but that could be a good complementary, and it could help certain problems. So, but again, see it as a tool. It's really a tool where what is important is what we want to achieve in this.
So many thanks, Lauren. I will come back with a quantum-specific question later to you. Also, in some industry you have not so much data, but you have to train the models, and I think quantum will also provide some possibilities to bridge this gap, to have this, let's say, to train the model also with less of data. But nevertheless, we will come back later when we're discussing a little bit the themes, like said before. And now back to Alberto, because sorry for the inconvenience in the beginning with a defect mic, and I have to switch, run out and to get a conventional mic. But maybe, Alberto, you have also some kind of thoughts about how this can look like, and also you have done some kind of slides which you are showing us and hopefully explaining us this too. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. Piggybacking on what Laure just said about quantum computing, and I'm not an expert in quantum computing, but I understand a lot of that has to do with optimization and being able to solve mathematical optimization problems in a much faster way. And why do I talk about this? It's because the title of the panel is called Sustainable Impact, right? And a lot of the times when we talk about data and AI and computations, parallel computations or quantum computations, it's all about really solving problems better and faster. But to me, the word sustainable talks about also having a certain sense of control of what you're doing. Otherwise, if you're not in control, it's not really sustainable. And I'm specifically referring to some of the comments that Asunción, the Professor Gomez, made when she was talking about the Leia project. And you could really see there that they're really talking about data and correctly governing data for it to train the algorithms, and that's a little bit of what I want to talk about, because this is part of the work that we've been pushing both from the Commission side, but also from the member side, you know, and this is the idea of having trusted systems, you know. If you want to have a controllable or an understandable artificial intelligence, and I go back to 2014 when I first got into the world of data, I was training neural networks, the same neural networks that now are being deployed in ChatGPT. Obviously, there were much earlier versions of that. And they work very well, but we weren't really able to explain why they work so well. And that's a bit of a black spot problem, actually a really big problem. Because you want to use them, but you know you need to control them, right? So I really want to highlight on the importance of having, of governing data correctly, to be able to really be able to control and produce reproducible results for AI, because I think this is really the key to, you know, the holy grail of productivity. You know, a lot of the business people I talk to, they come and say, you know, artificial intelligence will be the fourth industrial revolution. You know, it will really change the way we do things, but only if we're able to control it. There is an anecdote that I like a lot. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I used it anyway because it fits my purpose. They said that what helped cars, what helped automotive industry more wasn't so much developing the engines or the nice seats or the air conditioning, which obviously came a lot later, but actually the driving code. The way to drive, harmonizing a way to drive, what was making people not crash. When people were crashing and dying, the trust on the car or the earlier versions of the car wasn't there, right? So I'm using that anecdote or that analogy because we really want to achieve economic and social value and productivity out of artificial intelligence, you know. But for that, we need to decide, you know, how we're going to do it, right? And going back to my early days as a machine learning engineer, you know, I typically think of artificial intelligence systems, the ones we know now, because there's different artificial intelligence, there's symbolic too, but this machine learning based one, there's three ingredients essentially. I'm probably oversimplifying. One is data, obviously, that's the main one. You also have models, but the current wave of artificial intelligence, the groundbreaking algorithm was invented in 1986 is the backpropagation algorithm by Geoff Hinton, who's considered the father of current neural networks. And then the third one is computation, right? So we were recently pondering about different scenarios. You know, how can you really improve artificial intelligence? Well, one is if you have more exotic models. You know, there's generative adversarial networks, you throw in a bunch of layers, you try, and then you see if something works and it sticks to it. Of course, for that, you actually need computing power, and we're seeing that with large language models. When I was training neural networks, I was using about, I can't remember exactly, but 100,000 parameters. The latest language models are 1 trillion parameters. That really calls for if you guys have seen the market capitalization of NVIDIA, the GPU company, I mean, I regret every day not having bought their stock because they've really gone up very quickly. But then I'm calling for a third wave or a third scenario for training artificial intelligence because they say these are artificial neural networks in the sense that, you know, the psychologists that first developed them were trying to mimic how humans work. But I have a 2-month-old nephew. He doesn't need to see 1 million houses or cats to recognize what a cat is. So, you know, I call the European way to AI, since we can't compete in investments in R&D or in microelectronics, at least not yet, to have better data, to have more contextual data, to have better governed data. Why? Because I believe there is a scientific paradigm to training algorithms with data, not by brute force, but by understanding what the data behind is. And also, and this is the concept of ontologies and kind of trying to understand what is it that you're really trying to do, because I believe that's what humans actually learn. And also because it's controllable, which means when you're going to deploy it, you actually can explain, or at least a little bit better, explain what is happening, and that will make it much easier to actually gain market traction. Because what we're seeing now with a lot of these large technological companies is a bit of a wild, wild west. And I don't think that's the European way of doing things. At least that's not the way that it's envisioned by our leaders. So with that said, you know, I'm really calling for the need to govern data and how this is going to drive the next wave of productivity of artificial intelligence. You know, and I realize this is a bit of a conundrum because, you know, where do you draw the line between governing and using, you know? And that's why I have that diagram there, which, by the way, it's not actually ours. We've adapted it, but it's based on a think tank paper by a French think tank a year ago. You know, and I like it a lot because if you look at Moore's law, that's the law of microelectronics, Gordon Moore. But you know, more generically, you can think of it as a the technical field. You know, and when that technical field intersects your regulatory or best practices, that's the orange bubble, you can end up with what we call trustworthy cloud or trustworthy technology. Metcalfe's law is the law of ecosystems or platforms. You know, the value of ecosystems, detailed ecosystem grows exponentially as you have more people. That's, you know, so I'm thinking of it as data, web. So when you intersect again that blue digital bubble with the legal bubble, legal, ethical, technical standards, you end up with some trustworthy data. And when you intersect trustworthy data with trustworthy cloud, you know, and I guess one could say with the algorithms, but the algorithms are just rules to follow in computational, you end up with trustworthy AI, right? And I think it's important to go towards there. And to wrap up, you have this extra layer which we call trust tech. We made up that name, Manuel and I, but it's more of a marketing thing. And what we mean by that is really to be able to achieve that kind of idea of trustworthy technology, of trustworthy data. It's really about understanding, much to her point, what is it that humans trust, you know? And it's a lot more than just technology. It's about harmonization, it's about reference frameworks, it's about innovation. And so the idea is to be able to develop that kind of soft layer, much like the driving code, you know? The driving, you know, when you go get your driver's license, that's essentially enforcing a soft law. You know, a technical standard for how you drive and what you're allowed to do and not to do. And that's what's driving, I believe, well, that's what drove the, you know, really the advent of cars as we know them now. And I think that's what's needed towards the, you know, trinity of cloud data and artificial intelligence.
Perfect, Alberto, many thanks. And by the way, on the slide here was shown also the source from this graph you have shown, which we have not seen on the screen, but okay. So maybe coming back and to the 5 teams, and I will go around and keeping the time also. Maybe what should we do to make us more competitive? Maybe I would address this question to Silvina, you know, also referring back to the experience with the CDO community which you have. What are your topic? What do you have to address? And you remember, Viivi mentioned also the fast-growing technology, ChatGPT, and so on what we have to look. What is your, let's say, recommendation for us? What should we do?
I will try to help with my view. New tech is coming very fast, so we need to connect and accelerate the connection of new tech coming with specific business needs. We have a risk, and in the past I was doing like this, of creating big stuff with no impact, because at the end of the day there is no connection between what we were doing, new model or new something, and the adoption in the business. So one of my main recommendations is starting not with the technology, because tech is there, starting with the why and what are the expected outcomes. What I expect to receive from doing this new something, no? and work with the business. In my case, I have a 600 more or less data team. So it is a very big team. So the risk of all this team doing a lot of stuff that no one is adopting is very high. So I need to be very sure that I connect what I'm doing with a specific business impact. So without this connection, we can develop fancy things, no business adoption, then we don't have any sustainability model. So just to maximize this adoption and impact in the business, we keep focus on what is our operating model. So I used to find in this community many people that they are working in a centralized model, data team doing things, and business are fully disconnected with this team. So it is very hard then making the operativization of these new models or new tech. In my case, what we did is and have a spoke model. So we centralize a small team. We say it's a data analytics studio. They are in charge of this research and innovation of new tech. And they are in charge also of anytime we find out new thing, we connect with different business to try to get use cases for using this new tech. So our goal is not having the latest new tech in place. Our goal is how this new tech is making a transformation in the business. So this is one of my recommendations is when you look to this as a data something, it is very easy for us to explain all the things we do, but know what are the results we are generating in the company. So we need to change the way we approach these things. So tech is there, I think is not really the challenge. The challenge is discover what are the big bets, what are the big things we want to impact, and then look for the technology to do that.
Okay, many thanks. In order to comment on the transformation of the business, this is which Laura is coming from a big company myself. Also, what we have to address inside the company to change it, to get the transformation. It's not so easy, and also the scaling up regarding small and medium-sized enterprises is also not so easy. I think this is targeting us. Maybe one additional question, Silvina, to you regarding how do you see the importance of a cross-sectoral data space, connectivity, exchange? How can this combine when you have the view on different data spaces from different verticals?
We have one data ecosystem that is in a data mesh architecture. That means that we have all data by domains. Customer domain, merchandising domain, logistics domain, finance domain. So we prepare all data as a single source of truth. So it is governed data. And from there, we develop data products. And we open all these data products to all the community. But we keep a layer where we say, okay, depending on who is accessing the data, we allow them to use it for that specific use case or not. And we develop all this in an automatic way. At the very beginning, we started with a very manual thing, and this balance between governance, control, compliance, and open data, it is something that is making a lot of friction between business that wants to bring value and then you that want to minimize risk. So the balance between risk and value, it is very important. And it took us some time to develop this operating model again. So we don't have a compliance team or an data ethics team or business teams. They all work together and they have to bring to the table what is the best way of using data, being compliant, but also taking into account all the opportunities for the customers and the sellers. Sellers is a part of our main customer also. So if we have opportunities, we need to capture these opportunities. So also, obviously, being compliant. Yep.
Okay, many thanks. Maybe the third topic is regarding how we can make data and AI ecosystem or innovation fit for the emerging infrastructure and platforms. I would split this question in two parts. First to Alberto, and then Laura, to you, how quick or how new infrastructure, hardware infrastructure, I phrase it in this way, can support this. But maybe up to you, Alberto. Now hand over again the mic to you.
Thank you. I'll be quick because I know we're running out of time. I think the key word for how to really create innovation and a lot of the benefits in connection with the infrastructures and the new models, really the key word is orchestration. And it's nothing but a fancy word for coordination. And I think even within the European landscape, there's tons of programs. There's the important project of common European interest for cloud infrastructure and services. There is Gaia-X. There is things like My Data. There's the Digital Europe program, European data spaces. There's the Data Spaces Support Center. That's a very complicated landscape, which I think it's natural when a field kind of starts taking on, because there's an explosion and a divergence of activities, which luckily they need to converge. And I'm positive about it because even at the technological level, which is probably the easiest level anyway, but there is a ton of different technologies that one can really kind of get lost amid. But if you come to the panel later today, I'm going to be presenting a harmonized model for data spaces, and you can clearly see there how various initiatives throughout the course of the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, like international data spaces, they're really starting to come to a point where you have a fully coherent and user-centric model. So I think it's really about orchestration, the different stakeholders, and making sure that there's a purpose and that technology fits that purpose. And I'm quite optimistic about the future of this.
Maybe to add and then to hand over to Laura. Now Alberto has spoken, let's say, a little bit out of my heart, because this, when you're using the applications, use cases, where you look why you need what data, then you have also the AI to get value out of the data with the different methods. Then you have the data spaces, and you mentioned Data Space Support Center and other initiative where we just, and my intro was also about collaboration is key, that we're really putting our heads together, let's say, taking our hands on the stuff together. I think that's key. And let's say also where we're going down, and we have to look about how we get it done with the infrastructure from edge to cloud. And last but not least, we have also to look what is the hardware infrastructure in this. I think when we get this, I always phrase this a little bit as a holistic view. I think that is key to solve. It's tricky. It's also diverse sometimes, which is good, because then you have different opinion and thoughts. But nevertheless, you have to think how you bring it together. But coming back to the, let's say, to the quantum, to the quick consortium, how can this contribute?
Before jumping to quantum, I want to re-emphasize the importance of those data spaces. I mean, at BDVA, from the beginning, we defined those high spaces where, and it's not just having access to platform, but there's all those research meeting industry having this as a benchmark, and also what was mentioned earlier, all those legal aspects. Ethics, etc., and exchanging on those, and business for not forgetting it. And that's, I mean, this access, this being able to not just testing, but really defining what will be the best way to use those cases. This is really important. If we look at quantum computer, this is even more difficult because it's pretty still in research mode, it's pretty unstable, etc. But there is something, and that concerns HPC as well, the Euro-HPC joint undertaking, so where BDVA is a member and QUIC is a member as well, next to ETP for HPC. This, I think it's important, and you probably hear about it in one of the sessions. But that's a good, I mean, even a unique opportunity to, so they build an infrastructure first, I mean, several infrastructures, actually, several HPC centers, which are accessible by any European business, but also research and innovation calls. So there is, on the HPC side, I mean, you will have those platforms, those emerging infrastructure, and in some cases, there will be quantum computers as well. So the call is just launched now. There will be, and you will have this hybrid architecture, because you cannot go to a quantum computer alone. You need both. You need the interface. So that's cooking. And the research and innovation calls are important as well. And there will be some for quantum computing, but there is a big portion of those calls are related to big data and AI. So this is a good one of the good opportunity to first approach this and really get familiar with it, and eventually developing in even further those as we call emerging infrastructure. Okay.
Many thanks. And by the way, last week I was in Berlin on a discussion and close to a professor who was acting in quantum, and when I mentioned the problem with, in manufacturing industry, you have not a lot of data to train the system, and you said it correctly before us, and you have to have control the data, you have to control the process, because sometimes it's, in industry, which you want to run, that the process is precisely running and not running wrong. You're again back to get enough data to train the model adequately, is that it's not happening in this way. And he told me that quantum could offer an opportunity also with a less amount of data to train the model more efficient and more sustainable in the future. But I know it's a research topic.
I just want to add, I mean, don't wait for a quantum computer to be here to solve all your problem. I mean, first, it's not about big data as of now, anyway. So. Yeah, there are plenty of things before that, and that we can use in those emerging infrastructure. And it's also a kind of mindset in thinking differently. It's different approach, different way of writing the algorithms. It's something we have to do now, and we can do on classical right away. So it's really a question of changing the approach and using a different way of doing things.
Okay, many thanks. Maybe going over to the next topic, how we can make our AI ecosystem application solutions more efficient. Maybe who want to answer from the perspective what you have learned in my data, or elaborate it in the initiative? Maybe how can we make it more efficient? Because there's a lot of systems needed, there's a lot of energy needed, you have to calculate this, how can we make it more efficient?
How can we make our technology more efficient? Now that's a really, really good question. And there are a number of initiatives in Europe and beyond looking at ways to compute less, compute with less energy, compute with less data. I think that small data is the new big data, someone said recently. And I think one of the key aspects that I draw from my data thinking especially is the reuse of data. Not collecting the same data over and over and over again, but rather reusing through sharing, through collaborations, through things like data spaces. And this should be, when it comes to personal data especially, when we stop thinking about data as being defined by the organization who collects it or on whose servers it sits, but rather we think about it as being related to the person who's kind of at the kind of integration point of that data. We can find kind of more reliable ways to reuse data. We can empower the individual as well, and we as then companies, if we go to the person themselves, we get more reliable and more reliably related to that actual person, the data that we can use. So the high level point is reuse rather than more and more and more.
Okay, many thanks. And final question. How, and you touched this before regarding the ChatGPT speed of technologies versus regulation. How we can balance innovation, speed, ethics, compliance issues. Any thoughts on this?
That is a really interesting and a huge question. I could spend an hour reflecting on that. But I think one of the points that you made actually in your opening remark was that none of us can do this alone. So we need the technologists, the designers, the business developers, the policymakers, and even us philosophers in the room to figure this out. Because we need a plurality of voices, we need a diversity of perspectives to try and create the future that we all deserve and really want. And I think the importance of proper governance that you highlighted as well is really critical. And governance to me means negotiation. It's always an interaction between parties. And diverse groups like I just outlined, they will come with conflicting and confusing kinds of points of view, drives, incentives, motives. And to manage this in a productive way, that's a matter of governance specifically. So I always talk about, there's levels of data governance, there's enterprise organizational governance, all this kind of stuff, but there's also a very real need for human governance and human interoperability.
Oh, this was my fault, not the technology fault, not push the button. So many thanks. 2-3 words, final remarks. Alberto, what is your expectation? What should we do out of this conference or as the next steps?
I like to think that out of a conference we have a call to action. My call to action would be to coordinate, starting from the European level. I think there needs to be a grassroots initiatives coming from the actual industries in countries, but I think it needs to be governed from the top. Because I think the intersection of cloud, data, and AI is way too complex for companies. You cannot be doing projects and governing the whole ecosystem. I think this needs to be done from the European level. And yes, there's the European Data Innovation Board, and I may be getting in trouble for saying this, but I don't think that's the answer.
Okay. Silvina, maybe your recommendation. Oh, sorry, you have no mic.
I'm going to follow with the call to action, the CTA. Now, from my side, I'm thinking in the CDO club, my call to action to you is join us if you are in this role of leading a transformation in a company, public or private one. The second one is we feel, and it is not only a feeling, it's a reality, many people is reinventing the wheel. And there are 90% of what we do in data, it is really very standard. So what we try to do is creating these standards and frameworks. I bring here one of them, just for you to know it is not only tech things, this is a tool for us. We say this is a toolkit where we have a map with all data areas, how they are connected. Probably I don't have all the time here to present it all in detail, but we have here everything around data, the path to bring value with data. So this is a tool that can help you and the teams to develop a strategy. We have a game here. It's a very funny way of learning about everything with data. So my call to action is, if you have interest in learning more about everything in data, we can send it to you a toolkit. This is the toolkit. It's not tech, it's manual one, but we thought it's very, we thought it's easier to adopt probably for many people that they are not so data literacy.
Okay, many thanks. Laura, you have some mic.
So two aspects. So We take my SAP hat here. We are a business and we do business to business. So we do generative AI, conversational AI, the language aspect, including voice recognition, etc. It's not that we don't care so much about ChatGPT, but this is really there is a huge area where we need this, and all those aspects are important. Security. We need the cloud. We need the etc. So it goes all together, and so as industry we need a certain. Those AI Act etc. are really important. For us as industry and for us as European citizens. But now to the community, as a BDVA community, we should not just expect some government or the EU Commission to define, take out this AI Act and react on it or see how we can apply it or so. This should be the reverse. We should be the voice. We should be the one explaining what are the needs. We should be the one influencing things, telling this is the way we see it, this is where there is a lag, this is what we should do or not. And not just towards the EU Commission, but to the world community, the industry, etc. And this is what it is about in this BDVA. So I hope it's not like a one shot, we do something and there is a white paper and it's the end of it. It's a constant work. We work on it for almost 10 years, and this will still go on. There will always be a new version of it, let's say this way.
Perfect, many thanks. And last but not least.
Thank you. I think I'll keep my call to action very short, and that's talk to each other. That's human interoperability. That's how trust gets built. That's how we learn, by asking questions and talking to each other, because none of us can do this alone.
Perfect, and let's talk to each other. We have sooner or later a break. We have in the evening a welcome reception where we can talk a lot. And many, many thanks to all of you. I hope this was not so boring, and apologies for the hiccup at the beginning, but we solved it. Many thanks.
Thank you very much. Fantastic and very, very brave panel with the call for action. Thank you, Alberto. Viivi, thank you very much. Silvina, thank you so much. Thomas, and Laure, bye-bye.